Indeed, China has enjoyed many golden ages throughout its long history, and it has suffered more than they should have because of some Chinese emperors. The emperors in ancient China had tremendous power and responsibility, and were often called Son of Heaven. They were given a heavenly right to rule over all people while sitting on a golden dragon throne, which was the highest of honors. Death, suicide, and forced abdications were not unheard of in the long line of Chinese emperors. Many Chinese emperors achieved greatness during their early reigns, only to slide into debauchery in their latter years. Rather than serving the state, most Chinese emperors pursued their own ambitions. One such emperor was Qin Shi Huang, the first emperor of China. He is best known for unifying China and building the Great Wall, but he is also infamous for his ruthless tactics. He is said to have had hundreds of thousands of people killed in order to solidify his rule, and he also ordered the burning of many books and also burying scholars alive because the pen frightened him as much as the sword. The 12th emperor of the Eastern Han dynasty, Han Lingdi, had the last real power of the dynasty. His dissolute nature and overindulgence in women led him to neglect state affairs. During his reign, the court was dominated by one of the most despised eunuchs in Chinese history, Zhang Rang. Due to the emperor being irresponsible, court officers in the Han dynasty took matters into their own hands, and used practices like levying impossible taxes or selling imperial offices for money to make themselves wealthy. What's more, Han Lingdi himself approved of these proceedings. Because of this, many different factions of the Eastern Han dynasty felt unhappy with the emperor's policies, which led to an escalating situation and an open conflict. This is not a new phenomenon. History repeats itself multiple times when power falls into the hands of the wrong people. As a consequence of the successive embezzlement by the imperial court, China was shattered into three, resulting in a war-torn Three Kingdoms era. Thanks to this bad emperor, hundreds and thousands of Chinese citizens died in 6 decades of continuous civil war. Love, they say, can make people do things they never thought possible. And Emperor Zhou Yuwang was no exception to this saying. Zhou Yuwang ruled over the Western Zhou dynasty and was known for having a love story which led to his death. In 779 BC, a woman called Bao Si arrived at the palace and became his favorite consort. Bao Si will later give birth to a son named Ji Bofu. Due to Zhou Yuwang's immense love for Bao Si, he demoted and banished his current queen Shen and her son Crown Prince Yuji, and promoted Bao Si to be the new queen and her son Bao Fu to be the new heir to the throne. Despite the emperor's love-struck condition, Bao Si was naturally melancholic and didn't see any point in maintaining a smile regardless of what happened. To please his queen, the emperor pulled a prank by lighting warning beacons and fooling his imperial ministers and soldiers into believing the capital was under attack by barbarians. Seeing armies rush to help the capital, Bao Si could not help but laugh at their gullibility. In spite of their annoyance, the nobles would have forgiven Zhou Yuwang had he not repeatedly played the same trick on them. One would think this emperor will be sensible enough to find other ways to make his wife happy. However, their happiness won't reign for long. As the banished Queen Shen's father will make an alliance with the barbarians to lay siege on the capital. The day the capital eventually came under attack, no one came to aid the emperor due to his frivolous pranks. Unfortunately, Emperor Zhou died along with the crown prince, and Bao Si was imprisoned and she later committed suicide. Emperor Wen Sundi, also known as Gao Yang, was revered for his military abilities and efforts to reduce corruption during his youth. The government of northern Qi was effective for a while, and the military was very powerful. However, he eventually became addicted to alcohol, and according to all accounts, he was probably psychotic during his later reign. Apparently, he once beheaded a consort that he suspected of infidelity, tossed her head on a banquet platter, stroked the corpse's leg, and then chopped off her body parts at the banquet, shocking the guests. Although Gao Yang was cruel, northern Qi flourished under him because he defeated many barbarian tribes due to his brutality during wars. Fear of him also strengthened law and order within the imperial court. All members of the court, including his family members, lived in fear of him during his latter reign. As well as being homicidal when drunk, the emperor also loved women to the point of insatiation. The emperor once shot an arrow at Lady Kui, the mother of his wife Empress Li, and whipped her as well. Additionally, most women of the imperial Gao clan were either forced to engage in sexual relations with him or killed, with the exception of his wife Empress Li, whom he favored. The emperor's mother, Empress Dowager Lou, once scolded him for acting unreasonable when he was drunk. He didn't take it lightly and threatened to marry her off to a barbarian, but her anger caused him to become fearful, and he hid underneath her chair. But, while he was under the chair, his weight flipped it over, injuring her. When he sobered up, he realized how she had been hurt and set a fire with the plan of taking his own life by jumping into it. His mother, Empress Dowager Lou, rescued him. After this incident, he swore to not drink for 10 days, but then began drinking again and continued to make people's lives miserable. Emperor Gao Yang one day woke up and decided he wanted to unite Buddhism and Taoism into just one religion, so he arranged a debate. He decided the Buddhists won and ordered Taoism to be combined into Buddhism and Taoist monks to become Buddhist monks. Anyway, not all of them agreed originally, but after he executed 4 of the monks, the others submitted and Taoism became banned within northern Qi. Maybe jumping into the fire he set was not bad after all. At least, he would have saved the lives of a lot of people, but he didn't jump. When we think of entertainment, ideally it is supposed to be fun and not involve any violence, but if one is psychotic and has enough power, then entertainment gets a whole different meaning. Emperor Zhou of Shang, also known as Di, was known to be very intelligent, quick-witted and quick-tempered. Nevertheless, Di preferred drinking and women over the proper governance of his country. According to legend, a lake of wine was constructed by Di by levying impossible taxes on his citizens to please his concubine, Daji, which included a small island adorned with branches made of roasted meat skewers. He hosted an event around his wine pool where naked men and women were sexually abused in the most atrocious and humiliating way, and that was just the beginning of his entertainment, as he also created a punishment of burning flesh with a bronze cylinder, and made prisoners go through such extreme torture to please him and his concubine. The prisoners ranged from ordinary people to high government officials. Prisoners would be tied naked to a hollow bronze cylinder that was heated until it was red hot. When confronted by his respected uncle Prince Bi Gan about his unruly and psychotic behavior, Di had his uncle's heart ripped out so he could see what the heart of a sage looked like. This emperor really didn't like the confrontation because his uncle was his prime minister. He tortured people to the point that the forest around him was scattered with human flesh. His brutal execution methods were said to have made him lustful. Nonetheless, his unusual entertainment won't last for long. The Zhou dynasty's victory over the Shang dynasty in the Battle of Muzhe led to Di lighting himself and his palace on fire. In the wake of his death, Di head was cut off and hanged on a white flagpole. His evil concubine Daji was executed as well. Were these emperors psychotic? Or just bored? Imagine calling a ruthless person the son of heaven.